Long ago, there existed an island of 7 kingdoms. One of these kingdoms was known as Warlan, ruled by the Emperor Phoenix, also known as the Lord of Fire. Believed to be wicked, ruthless, revered and feared by the other kingdoms. But she wasn't always like this. She, at one time, was a victim. Years before she became the Lord of Warlan, in her homeland, she was married to a general who she thought was a kind-hearted one who loved his country. But the greed and power of wealth seduced him, and he betrayed his country. She pleaded for him not to, but he couldn't. He could not listen to her, and because of this, she could not bear to be the wife of a man who betrayed their country, a country that she loved. So she climbed the cliffs over the ocean and leapt to what she thought was her death. But fate had another destiny for her. She was rescued by a pirate. And as we all know, pirates are not merciful. And because of what she endured while she was with him, conceived a child. Soon as he knew of the pregnancy, he sold her to a brothel to a mysterious island. There, she could not bear the thought of her child growing into a world of sin. So she tried to run away. They came after her, and her only choice was for her to secretly give away her child. She regretted this because she loved her daughter, but she didn't want it to live in a horrific world that she thought would be her life. Soon as she was given back to the brothel, she was imprisoned for years in this world. However, she became very popular, known as the Crimson Courtesan. She beguiled men with her beauty and her many talents from her country and homeland. One day, she caught the eye of a rejected king, a king who was not allowed to rule his own kingdom. However, she taught him the many things that he needed to know, the many things to regain his kingdom, and because of this, she was able to restore him to his own throne. The reward for this, he made her his queen. The two were in love. However, his two elven advisors, known as Yuya and Luya, didn't like her. In fact, they could not believe that this woman was able to convince this man to regain power over his own kingdom, because they thought this man was part of a curse, a legend of a fire lord within him. So they did everything that they could to try to separate the two, to put a wedge between them. However, this lady, the future Phoenix, continued to gain favor over her husband. She gave him 3 sons, which many believed would secure her to her throne as his queen. However, eventually, Yuya and Luya started to put a wedge between the two. Their plan finally worked. When the two married, they wanted to bring together their own beliefs. However, Yuya and Luya, who had been this man's guardian, were able to convince him to follow their own beliefs. And soon, whatever she advised was irrelevant. Whatever she tried to do to help him was irrelevant. This man soon became a puppet, and what Yuya and Luya did next was the unthinkable. They wanted to replace her. They wanted him to terminate their relationship. So they convinced him that their 3 sons were illegitimate, and what he did next was unthinkable. They finally managed to anger Phoenix enough for her to be turned down as his spouse. So, in order to save herself and her three sons, she rebelled. She knew this day was coming, as the relationship between her and her new husband was dwindling. So she did a rebellion, which conceived during the time when he was dying. She knew what she had to do. She managed to seize the main palace, her and her army. She went to her husband's dying bed. Yes, he was ill, because Yu and Lu were slowly poisoning him. They feared the power that was within him, and if he died, the power of fire would be no more. However, before his last breath, Phoenix consumed it, and with his last breath, she consumed the power of fire, his bloodline. And from then, she was no longer human. She had become a creature, a phoenix that rose from the flames of her old shell. And from then on, she demolished everything that Yuya and Luya had done. She demolished everything, including her husband's existence. She founded the kingdom of Warlan, and Yuya and Luya, for what they have done, were executed. From then on, she disdained elves. She hated elves because she felt they were too weak. She felt that any form that they thought was evil, any form that they thought would be terrifying, should be destroyed. And the fact that she had a personal issue with elves for what they had done to her relationship was not forgivable. Especially what they had done to her three sons, her three innocent sons. She was able to save them, however, the result of what she had done to save them caused her third child to become a creature of darkness, while the other two were fine and remained in an aura of light. Since then, anyone who dared this new reign, she fought against them, and soon Warlan thrived. The remaining kingdoms, the remaining 7 kingdoms, did not dare at all fight against her. Phoenix thrived, and with it her power. Her kingdom was much larger than the others. Her wealth and beliefs were much powerful. She lived in an age of peace through vile and violent means, unfortunately. And yet her manipulation, her power of seduction, her power of beguiling allies was enough to give her what she needed. She created a new world, and because of that, many feared her, because of how she did it. But there was no other way. At first, it was all for the sake of her sons, who were the victims of 2 women, 2 elven women, who feared her husband's bloodline, who also disdained her because of her background as a courtesan. But she was a courtesan by force. But that was nothing. It was no excuse to them. She was filth to them. Soon, that was all over, and she thrived as Empress of Warlan, Lord of Fire, Phoenix of devastating beauty.